extremely important that anytime a new coaching position is created, a new person steps into the coach's position, a new principal comes to the school, or staff members have changed. In any of those settings, it's critical that time is taken with the staff at the very beginning of the year to present what role the coach will play. To what extent is the coach's role being seen as invitational, expectational, or required? When the role is seen as invitational, it means that the coach is a resource available to the teacher, in which case I would recommend presenting to the staff the kinds of services that a teacher could request from the coach. Expectational. When administrators present that it's the administration's expectation that teachers would be making use of the coach and the availability of coaching for tackling various issues that are occurring in the classroom. In my mind, I could see in a school like that where a teacher comes to the principal with a concern about a student's progress, concern about a curriculum question. Whenever that concern is raised with the principal, I can imagine the principal's first response to the teacher being, what came out of the conversation you had with the instructional coach about that? And when the teacher says, I haven't spoken to the coach, there would be kind of a surprised look on the administrator's face, communicating that it's an expectation that teachers make use of this resource. And lastly, working with the coach could be required in some settings, especially connected to professional development. If the entire staff or a team of teachers are going to take part in a professional development study to add a strategy to their repertoire, to make a change in the way a certain part of the curriculum is being addressed, it would make sense to include that as part of the PD, the teacher is to request an observation and feedback session from the coach. Again, critical in all of these cases to present that the coach's role is not evaluative. So when it's required that coming out of my workshop on using these critical thinking strategies, I get observed by the coach and get feedback on my use of those strategies, it's not an expectation that the coach is providing information to my evaluator concerning my progress with those skills. It's critical for a new coach, new staff, new administrator to set that message so that everyone knows the role they should see the coach play. I use the term that the way you build trust is to say what you're going to do and then do it. So it's a lot clearer if up front we lay out just what those coaching roles are. It's critical that in that coach-principal partnership, an agreement is made as to how the coach will spend his or her time best helping the school to achieve the school improvement plan that has been put in place. If a coach is highly effective, a phrase that they need to say often is no, because a highly effective coach is going to be receiving more requests for his or her support, for his or her guidance and input than there is likely time in the coach's schedule to meet. So the coach is going to have a prioritizing process through which to filter those requests. So as the coach and principal begin and they look at the school improvement plan, I think these are considerations. One, how much time should the coach be spending working directly with students? That's the one that's probably has the most minimal long-term impact, but perhaps most important, very immediate impact. How much time should the coach be spending working with individual teachers? How much time should the coach be spending working with teams of teachers? And how much time should the coach be dedicating to working with administration or other school leaders? For example, if the coach has received training in a new writing program that's being implemented, and the administrative leaders have not received that training, an important upfront part of the coach's time may be spent preparing the administrators to give feedback and support as teachers work to implement those new strategies in their classrooms. I believe that at a minimum, every 9 weeks, the coach and administrator should sit down and take a look at the coach's previous work as to where they're spending their time. Were they able to spend their time where we had planned that they would spend their time? And then to regroup for the next 3 months. I can see many scenarios where in those 3-month blocks, the focus of the coach could change dramatically. The administrator needs to know how the coach is making decisions as to the best places to spend his or her time. And the coach needs to know that when they're making those decisions, they're making them using the prioritized process that they had done with their administrator. A phrase that I use frequently in leadership training is that as a leader, I need to model the model. So it's very important that the coach and principal's behavior model the vulnerability and value of coaching to the rest of the staff. And I think the way to do that is to make a quick agreement, coach and administrator, that they will formally and publicly coach each other, and that they will informally provide feedback to each other. Now, by formally and publicly, I think it's important that the coach look for opportunities, and I think model lessons present a great one. If a coach is going into a teacher's classroom to do a model lesson, the coach can invite the principal to coach the coach on that model lesson. And if that coaching is provided in the presence of the teacher that the lesson was modeled for, number one, the teacher gains even more from the modeling experience by getting to hear the coach and principal talk about it. But secondly, it models for the teacher that coachee role. In other words, what did the coach do to gain the most from the coaching feedback that the administrator had shared? I think it's important for administrators to look how to play that same role. And if it's not going into a classroom and doing a lesson and being coached by perhaps the coach and the classroom teacher, great strategy. If not that, then at the minimum of being coached on faculty meetings. Powerful for an administrator to invite the coach up and do a pre-conference about the faculty meeting in the first 5 minutes before it starts, have the faculty meeting, and at the end of the meeting, invite the coach back up to do a post-conference feedback session. And again, doing that in front of the staff, I think provides a tremendous, important model. Secondly, the coach and the principal will both have access to information that each other can use in a feedback setting. So when I shared that the difficulty, or that the difficulty of being a leader is to do that modeling of the model, we're all going to have times that we miss. So when I'm conducting a meeting and I make a negative statement that could have been better phrased positively, when I overlook an opportunity to provide empathy to a staff member, when I rushed through questions and didn't give enough think time, there's a great spot, if not formally, informally, for the principal to pull the coach aside and provide the coach with that feedback, and the coach to provide that feedback back to the principal. You can open the door to being comfortable giving that kind of coaching if the two folks on the front end will spend some time asking for it. So as a principal, let that coach know those areas that you're paying extra attention to and request that coaching. And the same with the coach. If you're working with your own personal professional development plan, that's a great place to hand that plan over to your colleague and to request any feedback that they could give you throughout the year at any time on achieving what you set out as your goal.